Hello, and welcome to Casual Trek, a spooky Star Trek recap and ranking podcast, brought to you by Nerd and Tie and Eclipso Crystals. Do you feel like going apeshit? Try our Eclipso Crystals. I'm Charlie Etheridge Nunn, a writer and a fan of the Spanish horror movie Wreck.
And I'm Mars Reed Lobato, a science fiction writer and a fan of a full English breakfast. That's sausages, Heinz baked beans, bacon, not too crispy, black pudding, hash browns, couple of slices of toast, a cup of coffee, and as much as I do like pineapple on pizza, I would not want pineapple served with my breakfast. And Charlie, before we get any closer, I should warn you that I tracked down the Crypt Keeper.
Oh, yeah.
I distracted him with a couple of issues of the Image comic Ice Cream Man and some James Tynion titles I had lying around the flat. Bumped him on the head, stuck him in a packing crate, and shipped him to Abu Dhabi, like normal in Garfield.
Any reason?
Only when I realized that we're doing a spooky episode that I forgot that, normally I do my Crypt Keeper shtick, and I didn't feel like doing it today.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, sorry, the Crypt Keeper is an entirely separate person, not me doing a really bad Crypt Keeper impression, which sounds like, Thatcher on the turn.
Oh, no one needs that.
Oh.
Yeah, so, as you may have gathered, our show where we watch stories from 3 different Star Trek shows and rank them on a big list of best to worst has a case of the spooky season. Personally, I always love horror movies. I always like reading a bit of horror, so why not? And it turns out Star Trek is full of enough horrifying things that we can narrow it down to a specific subject within horror. So this episode...
So we're doing the Transformed Man again, right?
Not this time.
Are we reading one of William Shatner's Star Trek novels?
Oh, it's not that kind of horror.
Okay, good.
No, not the suffering-based horror. That, I'm sure, will be a future episode.
And we're not doing Star Trek Next Generation, Doctor Who, Assimilation Squared.
Oh, we will in time.
Fuck.
Oh, we will. But this time, we're looking at something particularly spooky. Possession! Yes, there are multiple episodes with possession in them.
And possession is also 9/10 of the law.
Ghost law?
I don't know.
Okay. So yeah, but before we go on, Mars, what non-Star Trek thing have you been enjoying between episodes?
Well, because it is the spooky season and it's a great time to watch horror films, I decided, I'm going to sit down and watch all of the Halloween films. A bit of a Herculean... A lot of these films I have not seen since either first released, like the 2 recent films, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, and some of these I have not seen since the days of VHS. That's Halloween 4, 5, and 6. Or films I have never wanted to watch because I've never heard anything good about them. That's the 2 Rob Zombie Halloween films. And a film I would only ever have watched again if you put a gun to my head, and that's Halloween Resurrection, when Michael Myers gets beaten up by LL Cool J, pulling out some kung fu.
Wow.
When I first got into horror, I think Halloween was like my slasher series of choice. Like I had heard that that the Nightmare on Elm Street films after part 1 were bad, but that was a line from the Wes Craven film Scream, so I might be operating off erroneous data. The Friday the 13th films got really bad by part 3, and so I wasn't interested. And also, I'll be honest, I think the fact that Halloween H20 came out just as I was getting into Halloween films may have helped that and Scream, because I got into these films at the height of the Scream postmodern self-referential horror film craze. Really leans on Halloween, so that might have been the inspiration to have that be like my slasher text, as it were.
Okay. So, how many of these would you actually recommend?
Okay, let's see. There's hang on. We have we have Halloween's 1 and 2. We have Halloween 3, which does not have anything to do with Michael Myers.
Yeah.
We have Halloween 4, Halloween 5. There are two separate versions of Halloween 6. The
Okay.
release and the producer's cut. There's Halloween H20, Halloween Resurrection. There's the two Rob Zombie Halloween films, which, I've only seen the first one of those, wouldn't recommend at all. And then the more recent Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, where Jamie Lee Curtis kind of looks like a crazed Patti Smith.
Hmm.
So that's 13 films. I think I might, only in good conscience, only recommend about 5 of them.
Okay. I mean, for a long horror movie franchise, I guess that's a fairly good percentage.
Yeah, like Halloween 1 is a classic.
Hmm.
I feel Halloween 3, because it's the non Michael Myers one, gets a bad reputation, but it's an enjoyable bit of like sci-fi horror hokum. And the recent trilogy, I felt got a lot of slack, but I felt it was trying to do different things than just have, hey, let's have Michael Myers kill some more teenagers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, certainly better than my recent horror movie marathon, which was the first four Leprechaun movies. That's not the non Star Trek thing I've been enjoying, because I've been enjoying the podcast Nature Trail to Hell that's been talking about them. I was off ill and decided to optimize my time by having the first four Leprechaun movies on, and oh, they're not good. Oh, they are quite rough. I've still not seen Leprechaun in the Hood or Leprechaun Back to the Hood, and I can't imagine they're going to improve any.
I think I saw 40 minutes of the original Leprechaun, which stars Jennifer Aniston from Friends,
Yep.
on the Sci-Fi Channel, like probably back in the 90s. And 40 minutes was enough, I'll be honest. I was like, nope, I'm out. I'm out.
So the first one has a lot of weird decom kind of energy to it and benefits from that. It's, I think, the high point of them, which is saying a lot, especially because, yeah, you're probably right that about 40 minutes is enough. For me, though, my recommendation, my thing that I've been enjoying, is the new Legend of Zelda game, Echoes of Wisdom. And in this, you play Zelda, and she has a wand that allows her to kind of capture the echoes of objects and of monsters that she's killed. She doesn't have a sword or anything, and I saw people bemoaning, "Oh no, she doesn't have a sword because she's a girl." You're a lot more deadly with that staff. Um, my fucking word! Any problem? Army of crows. Just there you go. Crows. Boom. Problem sorted. This sphere, it makes fire. I'm going to just throw that in some long grass and watch the enemies die. It's very good fun. And at least at first, as wanted fugitive Zelda, it does feel like you are a complete delinquent. Summoning beds because they make perfect steps, and doing that whole Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom thing of, if you can see there, you can probably go there with the right sort of summons and such. Just in that kind of Link's Awakening top down style. So yeah, it's been joyous time. I, having like started it 2-3 weeks ago, I think I'm on the home stretch already. And that's not it being short, it's just that I've been ploughing a lot of hours into it as it's been so much fun.
Much like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, do you get the opportunity to engage in Korok related violence, as in those previous games?
No, there aren't Koroks here. There are Deku scrubs.
Oh, good.
I had to escape from prison that they held me in because Zelda gets arrested multiple times during this story, and probably justifiably.
You know what? This is so far the best game about a member of a monarchy that I can honestly recommend, because it has a monarch being arrested countless times.
Yeah, and I mean, her dad's a bit useless. Once I saved him, it's like, okay, I'm just going to summon Octoroks in here, and you get to see the little startled eyes on people when you summon a monster, and especially the Deku scrubs who actually go into a complete like heads down shaking, so you can stealth past them by just flinging monsters at them, and the monsters won't kill them, but they'll terrify the Deku scrub. So I've just had that as a bit of a hobby now.
So what's Link doing?
Link's captured and in a duel.
Of course. Yeah, that's your gender equality right there.
Yeah, I mean you can channel him briefly and get a short period of time where you can run about with a sword, but I keep forgetting I can do it because I'll just fling an army of crows at at the problem instead. Like, why would you do anything else? It's like violent real time Pokemon. Just go, okay, right, here's this monster. I'll just summon it and it'll spin around with all these blades, slicing into everything. Or a telekinesis where you can just lift things. So you can go grab the enemy, walk over a pond, let go, enemy drowns. Again, she's a fucking monster, that Zelda.
Are you able to fastball special Link at a monster?
No, no, because when you channel him, you are him. But I've fastball special many monsters and Octoroks and occasionally a crow.
You know what? I think while I'm editing this episode, I might just take this entire section, put it on a separate sound file, send it to Rihanna, and go, here's your capsule review for this game right here.
Yeah, yeah. Legend of Zelda Echo of Wisdom's Army of Crows. Job done. So yeah. Anyway, to non-crow based material. So we're tackling these in reverse chronological order today.
Chronological order.
Thank you. Reverse chronological order. I can't speak apparently. Yeah, mainly because I thought originally we'd get our vegetables done first and then save the episode for dessert. But actually, this was an all right one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very nice to have an episode of Star Trek where I'm like, an episode of Casual Trek. We're like, oh, none of these are shit.
yeah, nice. I know we were saying before about it being a very top heavy list, so we needed some low down ones, but man, we've had a run of it.
We're actually gonna actually have to work at placing these on the list this week.
Yeah,
Even the one with the sex candle.
especially the one with the sex candle. But first, we have Star Trek Enterprise, Season 4, Episode 11, titled Observation Effect. This aired on the 21st of January 2005, written by Judith and Gareth Reeves Stevens, directed by Mike Vega, and the UK number one hit's a weird one. It's Elvis Presley with Jailhouse Rock, which apparently there was a bit of an effort to try and make it the 1000th number one single on the UK charts. So
Is
yeah,
this an effort by in the same way we tried to make unsuccessfully to name a ship Boaty McBoatface?
yeah, pretty much.
Or in the way we successfully made Jedi an official religion on the UK census?
Yeah, that kind of a thing. I think also one of the biggest ones of all time, single wise, had been a Beatles one, and there wasn't much Elvis. So I think there was a bit of a push towards that as well. And the US has Mario with Let Me Love You, and this man is taking Mario's name in vain.
I think here we have the worst Mario, even counting the '90s Super Mario Brothers film, which I honestly say is legitimately fun film and the first truly great film about the Trump presidency.
Yeah, yeah, it's surprisingly fun. Just not really a Mario thing.
Yeah, like I never thought I would watch a film where talk about it and go, and then Mario and Luigi go to a leather bar.
Yeah, yeah. This Mario, on the other hand, is very much the whiniest nice guy. It's all very much like I love all these specific things about you. Every generic woman there, and the main thing he names is that he doesn't care for your boyfriend, and that's it. Really.
Yeah,
did treat you right.
You know he's cheating on you, so you should date me instead. It's not as if your emotional autonomy matters one jot. I think very few songs we had to listen to for this show have made me angry. I mean,
Mm,
okay, I know we do rag on Sheeran, but it's Ed Sheeran. It's okay.
yeah.
This one, I was just like, man, this is the hymn of whiny nice guys. And I say this because, to my shame, I was kind of a nice guy back in my mid to late teens.
Oh dear. It's all right. We all have those kind of sins in our closet, you know. Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't a good song.
No, Jailhouse
No,
Rock, on the other hand, that's a bop.
it is. It is. I'm not a massive Elvis fan, but I get that he's about as, as his reputation's about as good as it deserves, really.
Yeah, like like I appreciate the energy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I'll be recapping the observer effect. And
Also, on the subject of the William Shatner Captain Kirk novels, a lot of those were probably written more by Judith and Gareth Reeves Stevens than the Shatner himself.
yeah, I thought I recognized the names.
Yeah, there's a few. I've seen a few like tie-in books with their names on them, but you know what? They don't have
Oh.
5 minutes to recap this episode.
Oh my god.
Now, can you do it impartially? Talk about this episode of Star Trek without affecting its outcome.
Probably not.
All right, then. Okay, then. Sod it. Go.
Yeah, cool. So, Mayweather and Reed are playing a game of chess, talking about the way the game goes and also about how humans have lifespans which are too short to play all the games. That is true, but it doesn't stop me buying more tabletop games. Still, it's weird. They mentioned humans. Ah, yeah, some aliens have possessed the pair and they're going to test the Enterprise somehow. Apparently, the kind of test where someone always dies. Mayweather isn't keen on that. Trip and Hoshi, on the other hand, are returning from rooting around in some Klingon garbage on a planet, and Trip's got a bit of a cough, and then he collapses mid flight. Reed and Mayweather hear about this and share a knowing look. So, it's time for quarantine, not even the biogel rubdown. Yeah, Hoshi and Trip are chucked into quarantine. They're the only ones that came back with coughs as well. And Reed and Mayweather start talking about humans showing concern, but they may still kill them. Reed wants to go, yeah, cool, job done, let's go home. And Mayweather wants to stick around. He starts asking Trip and Hoshi questions, but comes across as that kind of slightly overeager, annoying kind of question asker and is sent away. Reed, on the other hand, speaks to Phlox, asks a bunch of medical questions Reed wouldn't know, and gets shooed away as well. Trip asks Hoshi if she saw the Andromeda strain, and no, because she's not a big nerd. Instead, she was getting booted out of the academy for breaking a guy's arm when he stopped her floating casino. Is Hoshi a badass? I've never really encountered her as much as this episode. Apparently, she's a bit of a badass. Anyway, the virus, it's silicon based, and that doesn't do well with us carbon based life forms. Trip and Hoshi, they've got less than 5 hours to live. Reed and Mayweather mentioned that they're partway through the test, but only 37% of people being tested get this far. Now, it's at the point where it's likely everyone's going to die instead of just these two. Oh well. Archer sees Trip being all sweaty and says, oh yeah, we're working on a cure, but Trip realizes the cure's probably a trip to a farm upstate. Mayweather decides to possess people closer to the subject, and now Phlox and T'Pol get possessed and ask for patients about their state of mind. Understandably, it's not great. The Enterprise, though, has found the meteor that brought the virus to the garbage planet, and they hope the Klingons found a cure for it. The freshly repossessed Reed and Mayweather grill Archer, going, hey, those Klingons, you don't like them? If they had a cure, would you lower yourself to do it? And yeah, Archer says, yeah, of course, on bended knee. And that gives them something to ponder about. Hoshi is delirious now and she Doug Ramsey's her way out of the quarantine, sending everyone into a panic. Luckily, Trip tracks her down and stops her from spacing herself. He tranks her and then is talked into tranking himself as well. Okay, good. What next? Well, Phlox has a potentially deadly attempt at making a cure. Hooray! Mayweather says, "Oh, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't watch the humans suffer," and wants a private chat with Reed away from prying eyes. So they possess the tranquilized pair, assuming no one's watching them. But they've assumed too much. An arse is made of them as Phlox sees them talking about, "Oh shit, physical pain hurts. Who knew?" And yeah, he listens in, and they are definitely not human. Because of this, a possessed Archer and T'Pol pop up to confront Phlox. They forgot the whole difference between sleep and being sedated. Oh well. Archer says they could help, but is told no by T'Pol. Phlox isn't part of the test because he's not human, so he is exempt from non-interference, but they're still not going to help, and they're just going to make him forget about all this. Luckily, that near-deadly radiation treatment solution is going to start now. Phlox and Archer suit up and take the pair to a lab to test the solution. They fight over who's going to nobly sacrifice themselves and expose themselves to the virus in order to administer the cure. Archer, of course, wins, and despite this attempt, Hoshi flatlines and dies. Mayweather, repossessed now, asks, "Oh God, how many deaths are their tests going to cause?" And Reed's like, "Well, we didn't do it. We're just neutral observers." And Mayweather's like, maybe we should be responsible for all this death that we're causing."
Oh,
Oh,
oh!
oh no.
I just want to say,
Mm-hmm.
the Andromeda Strain is a very good movie, and also directed by Robert Weiss, who directed Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Ooh.
Not as good a good movie, but not as good a movie as the Andromeda Strain.
Yeah, I was tempted to watch it before this, but did not get the time.
It's honestly it's very kind of it is in that same kind of very dry and clinical vein of motion picture. It's based on a Michael Crichton novel,
Uh,
where a space probe crash lands on Earth carrying a virus. The probe gets taken to this underground bunker, which is designed for the inevitability of spaceborne plagues. And so you have a crack team of scientists who are trying to study this plague, the plague, to see if they can cure it, or if they're going to have to nuke the site to stop the plague from spreading.
oh dear.
And okay, and stopwatch is set, and continue.
Cool. So yeah, Archer now moves on to Trip, tries to save him, and it's not going well. He calls to Paul to say she's in charge now because he's probably gonna die. Trip's life signs drop, but he gets up weirdly and says he's got a lot of respect for Archer. Hoshi also wakes up, possessed by the other alien, one that's a bit more of a jerk. These two, they're Organians, you know, from that episode of TOS with the Renfair Castle. They can fix everything, but Hoshi's host isn't keen on that. Arch says, "Oh, maybe you should turn your scrutiny inside, you jerks." He also says, "Look, we make life and death decisions every day. We don't need a deadly test to show what we're like. Maybe have some compassion." They think about it, and then yeah, ooh, all of a sudden, Trip and Hoshi are fine, and there's no explanation as to why, and Archer has a weird gap in his memory about what happened. Still, they set up a big warning to stop others coming to the Klingon garbage planet. Mayweather's Organian is pleased about this. The test can't happen anymore, and now they can plan for first contact, possibly with both humans and Klingons visiting their Renfair castle several years from now.
1 minute and 22 seconds.
Okay. I thought it was going to go a lot worse than that, to be quite honest.
No, that's quite good.
Yeah, that was entertaining, seeing the Organians. And the producers at this point in season 4 are starting to play with TOS kind of ideas. So they wanted more weird, non-corporeal entities, which, yeah, they did here, and saved some money because there were literally no guest stars here. It's all cast, and cast members being possessed. So yeah, that was quite neat.
Have we found yet another good episode of Enterprise?
I think we might have found another good episode of Enterprise.
Awesome. Our show remit continues.
Hooray! Okay, yeah. I quite liked this for actually seeing more of the crew, even if some of them were possessed, because we've mostly seen the core trio, and we got to see them all in different ways, like a bit less to Pol, but we got to see Archer doing the noble captain stuff and going, "No, I'm going to sacrifice myself," and all that.
Though I do have to question why they have never apparently considered the fact that maybe you're going to have to use some of these tools with EVA suits.
Hmm.
Because the reason why Archer has to pull off his glove and use the device is like, yup, we've never considered shit spacesuit gloves.
Yeah, maybe some better gloves or some like little device things, like use some sort of medical exocomp thing to actually do it. But I guess it's early days, so they've not quite figured those bits out. Yeah, I don't know if 4 years into Enterprise they've got any better
No,
at that sort of thing, rather than, hey, we're going to gallivant around and go, it's all right, we've got pep, and that's going to drive us through.
we're going to go to all these alien planets, find strange things, and stick our tongues on them and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's yet another one of those, like Strange New World, where they get all kind of weird pollen and all that. Yeah, in this case, like rooting around in Klingon garbage, which I couldn't help but imagine the worst kind of junkyard possible. So, oh look, it's some Klingon spore.
You're gonna feel sorry for. I gotta feel sorry for Klingon plumbers.
Yeah.
Are they? Do they have to be those guys who just really bump? Are they all like Rimmer from Red Dwarf, where they have to treat the responsibility of being plumbers with like they're doing the highest honor? It's like, yes, I must. Gowron has broken the lavatory again. I must plunger my way to Stovercore.
Yeah. I mean, God, they're going to have the angriest shits in the universe anyway. So yeah, there are going to be a lot of violent situations to
You
clean
can
up.
tell that the Klingons do not eat their 5 a day.
No, no, God, it's going to be pretty brutal, especially out there in space. Oh dear. I liked that the Organians were different from the start, and even though they were possessing multiple cast members, you could pretty quickly distinguish. I guess with like these weren't massive, deep characters.
No,
They were nicely two dimensional. Of like for one that's questioning it a bit, and for one that is experienced, bored, and just like, yeah, that probably failed. Let's go.
yeah, you got the young one, and you've got the guy who is definitely like, well, come on, it's 5 o'clock, it's Friday, I've got to go to I'm meeting some mates at the pub. I just
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
knock off. I want to knock off early.
Is mentally clocked off. The moment the quarantine's in, it's like, well, they're all dead. It's fine.
He's quiet quitting.
Yeah, yeah, and that's his prerogative, but maybe not if it leads to the death of a whole ship. This is all tests for first contact, ultimately, for going, can we interact with them? And sure enough, when they do, that reaches the kind of the point where the Klingons and the humans have to go into a cold war, lest the Organians wreck their shit up, because they're not a fan of it being an active war.
Especially not on their doorstep.
Well, yeah. I'm not quite sure what happened with that in the long run, but yeah, it's interesting seeing them having done this as well. They even mention the Cardassians at one point and go, "Oh yeah, they failed the test," but it feels very like that good place kind of thing. Of has anyone passed your test? Because it doesn't feel like they have.
No, you know that the Organians have set themselves up like their criteria is so high
Hmm.
and so just kind of disconnected from the human condition that someone doing a self-sacrifice just kind of upsets the whole apple cart.
Definitely.
Like, I find it weird that somehow I know this goes into the Star Trek like general Western approach to science fiction, which are humans are special somehow. I find it weird that like all these other species that they've apparently tested, only humans are capable of like self-sacrifice for like the smallest good.
I guess it is that thing of, okay, would the Romulans pass this? Probably not. Like,
No.
the Klingons evidently haven't. The Cardassians haven't. Yeah, it'd be interesting seeing which ones did, or that it was more than this. Like, would the Vulcans have actually done that and gone, yes, it is logical that I sacrifice myself because I'm ill? Maybe.
It's like we never hear what the criteria is for a pass.
Yeah, I think it falls down a little with that of, I get that they're so exacting in what they want that people aren't going to pass anyway, but that's part of it. But we haven't heard the, like, what the ideal state is and what they're aiming for. But even so, it was a good fun time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like it's nice to see Merryweather do something because I swear, out of everyone, he and Hoshi seem to be the characters we've seen do the least.
Yes.
And even with like God, what's his name? The British one.
Oh, Reed.
Yeah, and like even with Reed, like the most we've seen him do is be like too British in that one episode with the landmine and shoot to Paul in
Oh, the Wild West one. Yeah. 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 It's, well, that's where I think, yeah, we've seen a little more of him than of Mayweather. I don't know, that sense of there is more of a crew, because we've not had enough of that.
I do think like they don't. As far as I can tell, like the big problem with Enterprise is it goes back to that TOS. We have to have the core
Mm.
trio, but then miss what makes the other shows, I think, so much more fun is that you really get a chance to get like a good ensemble cast going.
Yeah, I think I didn't figure that out with the original series, because I remember thinking this with Enterprise. Oh, it's just the core three all the time, and not realizing that was the case in the original series. Where even now I'm going like, come on, give us some more Sulu, some more Scotty, all of these kind of things.
I mean, even like we saw last episode, all that Sulu and Scotty seem to do is just like cut back to on the ship, going, "Yep, I'm sure they're fine." You know, cut to Kirk being tortured.
Yeah. Now, how much of that is intentional on their part?
Who knows?
Like, normally at this point is about half an hour through being tortured by some aliens. So we'll give it another half hour. He'll either break himself out or we'll figure out something else.
Like they've got a bingo card. It's like they have little spots for like Kirk's being tortured, McCoy and Spock are fighting again.
Uh,
Kirk kisses someone. Like the really rare spot is like Spock kisses someone.
yeah. Well, yeah, because Shatner would do his best to dive in the way and get that kiss if he could. Yeah. So this was overall a good Enterprise.
Yeah.
So we have a big old list of Star Trek films and TV shows, currently standing at 130 items. We have Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan at the number one spot. We have, down in number 50, oddly enough, we have the Renfair Castle itself with the original series' Errand of Mercy. At 100, we've got Move Along Home from DS9. And all the way at the bottom, we have the original series' Plato's Stepchildren with some slightly problematic amdram that's going on. So, yeah, where will we put Enterprise? Now we've got, let's see.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Normally we base this stuff on what constitutes a unit of Trek.
Yeah.
What in this episode would you accept like take out all like the basic trappings of like they're Organians, so they're an established thing. What would make this episode a unit of Trek over, say, an episode of the Twilight Zone or the Outer Limits? Because like you could pretty much, I feel like you could tell this story as its own one-off TV, like anthology TV show drama.
in a way. Although personally, I kind of think with this that it's one of those ones where you're seeing the Star Trek of it from the outside
Hmm.
because you're getting these observers watching a bunch of Federation people, a bunch of Starfleet people, and they are very much doing a Starfleet. You know, they've got this problem. They are told repeatedly, this is deadly. It is a dead cert. That they are, you know, cold bum imminently. And they're doing their best to get through by doing science, by, you know, researching what was there on the garbage planet, saying, "Oh yeah, we'll beg the Klingons if we have to." Getting that sacrificial side from Archer, and yeah, ultimately reasoning with a hostile alien force. It's just this time we're seeing it from the hostile alien force's eyes, kind of like the way that in Magic to make the sanest man go mad, we see a time loop episode, but our main character isn't the one experiencing it, so we see them in the distance through it all. So I think we do get an amount of Star Trek. It's just at an interesting distance.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hmm.
I think that's a good way to put it. Let's see. Where are you thinking right now?
So at the moment, I'm just looking. Errand of Mercy, as I said, is at 50, and that's where we saw the Organians afterwards, and we had another test of theirs, which it didn't go quite so well, but also at least no one kind of actually died with it. Do you reckon this is better or worse than the Space Castle? Because I love the Space Castle, but I think this might like the conceit of this might be more interesting.
See, I am looking down at number 54, which is another
Hmm.
Enterprise episode, which is Carbon Creek, where a trio of Vulcans are trapped on 1950s small town America. And
Yeah.
I feel that equally has alien observers looking in and looking at the multifaceted capabilities of the human condition.
Yeah. I don't know. That might be a little better just because we get a bit more breadth of story with each of them. Even though, again, you've got that slight distance from what is a Star Trek, we've got a Vulcan perspective from it, which is quite nice. Okay.
Let's see, because I think I honestly prefer, like, as good as this was, I do prefer Carbon Creek.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
It's a much more fun story. I think there's a little bit more humor. Although the Travis and Reed being incredibly creepy throughout the show was nice. Or even when like it turned into Phlox and to Paul, and it was equally just weird and off-putting.
Yes, they were nice with each of those. When the Organians were possessing the tranquilized Trip and Hoshi, and Phlox noticed, and the moment the door opened and it was Archer and Apollo, it was like, oh no, that's them already, isn't it? Oh no.
There are so many moments of this episode where you could have actually turned this into comedy. We're
Mm.
just having like the two alien observers just swapping and plugging and playing. Like, I wish, like, honestly, I wish it'd been more of a scare chord that, like, Phlox is saw him in the screen. It's like, what the fuck?
I mean, it feels like it was on a knife edge between horror and comedy, which was quite nice. It manages to be neither, but in a satisfying way. Okay, well, with people acting weird and a previous Halloween thing, we've got Genesis in episode 56 on our list, which I don't know. There's still something very entertaining about they're all animals now.
Yeah, like, there's definitely there might be an Organian HR meeting,
Hmm.
which is just comes off like, well, don't do it again. It's like the end of Burn After Reading, where it's like, what have we learned? Not to do it again. All right, let's go with that. Let's go with that.
Yeah, yeah. We'll say the tests were successful and we're shuttering them. Uh, okay, let's see. A little further down, we've got the original series with Whom Gods Destroy and the glam rock band, which was very good fun.
good fun, but I think I actually do prefer this because it's a nice little sci-fi story. It has a good, it has, I love a story which gives a Star Trek story which gives us an in media res because you don't get that enough in
Mm,
Star Trek. So it starts off, even from the start, and you've got Travis and Reed talking about chess. You're like, okay, something's up.
yeah,
I am now interested. I am invested more than I would be at this point in an episode of Star Trek.
definitely. Okay, so Stars at Night, where we've got Shax's second best day, and it's about the one with the drones, with the kind of we're replacing all of.
With the
Oh,
starships, yeah.
yeah,
With the AI starships.
yeah, oddly oddly relevant to present situations, but yeah, okay. So I guess as we're closing in here, better or worse than Stars at Night?
I might, as much as I love Stars and Night, I might have to say better.
Mm,
Like, I feel this does constitute like a good. You talked me around, and I think this is a good unit of track.
nice. So that would make it for New 57.
Also, if this were Twilight Zone,
Mm-hmm.
probably would have ended like it did. If this was an Outer Limits, it probably would have ended with all the humans dying and the aliens just
Definitely.
going, well, we're on to the next test.
Yeah.
Because that's just a different dichotomy between the Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits.
Yep. Just pack it up and leave. So yeah, just another one there. Okay. Okay, so episode 2 for the night is Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 5, Episode 5, titled The Assignment. Now, this aired on the 28th of October 1996. Teleplay by David Weddell and Bradley Thompson. Story by Robert Lederman and David R. Long. And directed by Alan Croker. The UK number one hit was Spice Girls with Say You'll Be There, and Los Del Rio was the US's number one hit with Macarena, the Bayside Boys mix. That's been stuck in my head most of today after listening to it last night. Terrible. And yeah, watching the video for Say You'll Be There, I couldn't remember which one it was. And then when it started, it's like, oh my god, yeah, this brings me right back to 96. And with all the fictionalized character names and kicking and that, it did feel very much like the Bad Blood of its day, just, with charmingly much less production value.
Yeah, the Macarena I listened to this morning is just like, oh, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately had to pull up the Austin Powers clip of, I could be cool, I could be hip,
Mm-hmm.
because like Rihanna and I couldn't remember how the dance steps go.
Oh god. Yeah, yeah. I think I very briefly knew the dance steps, mainly from like Just Dance or Dance Central or something. But
Charlie, as far as I can tell, your music taste of like oldie timey music usually revolves to have I 100% this on Rock Band,
yeah,
and why or yes or no, and if yes, you love it, and if no, you have no time for it.
hey, look, there are a lot of musical blind spots that Rock Band showed me, and just because Maps by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs was the first song I 100%ed doesn't make them any less of a great band. Like, I love them and they are good, and I 100%ed them on guitar on Rock Band on Expert. So, all of these things can be true.
Do you know what can also be true?
Oh?
This episode, which I now have to narrate.
Yeah! So, you have 5 minutes. Otherwise, I'm going to cause a heart attack in myself. Hang on, no, I don't want that.
Okay, all right, okay, I'm good with this. Apply no drawbacks.
Damn it!
Rom's on the night shift, and he's picking up a taste for human food now that he's working with humans as one of DS9's engineers, much to Quark's consternation. Quark tells Rom that all his hard work will just not get him rewarded by O'Brien and the human staff. Put a pin in that. Meanwhile, in a 1970s sitcom plot, oh no! O'Brien and Bashir, those lads have killed Keiko's plants, and Keiko's back from Bajor in 5 minutes. Bashir suggests that O'Brien buy his wife some chocolate while he's gonna go and knife a guy so he can perform surgery so he doesn't have to apologize for helping kill Keiko's plants. O'Brien picks up Keiko, and Keiko goes, oh, by the way, I'm not Keiko, and this isn't in like in a sexy roleplay kind of way because it's your birthday tomorrow. It's in a, oh no, I've been possessed, and I need you to do my bidding, or I'm gonna fucking murder your wife, O'Brien. And O'Brien goes, okay, fair cop. And the alien possessing Keiko goes, oh, and you can't tell anyone because I can just cause a heart attack or a brain hemorrhage in seconds. And just to prove it, I'm just going to drop dead right now. And she does, and O'Brien's like, okay, fair cop. The possessed Keiko makes him do some engineering changes around the station, and O'Brien does so. Rom is now on the mid shift because someone else is sick. And in a scene which I found incredibly awkward, Rom tries to make friends.
Oh, God.
And it went just as well as the Ricky Gervais cringe comedy because he's trying way too hard, mate. Rom, I love you, man, but dial it down. O'Brien does the changes in time for his birthday party. And, everything's going well. Everyone sings a public domain song. And meanwhile, Jake is talking to Keiko because, hey, she went to the fire caves of Bajor. And apparently, according to Odo, who doesn't believe in this stuff whatsoever, apparently the fire cave is possessed by Pah'Wraiths, which are like ghosts. And Keiko goes, oh, Jake and Odo, there are no such things as ghosts. And Jake goes, oh man, it's a shame. I want to meet one. And Keiko goes, maybe you will, sport. Maybe you will. O'Brien is being a bit edgy because, it's all kind of awkward because he's clearly fighting with his wife and they're all trying to have a good time. 12-year-old me can get behind, can see how awkward this could be for all involved. Keiko goes, oh, by the way, those changes, that was a test. I actually need you to do these changes. And O'Brien goes, okay, sure, whatever. And I'm going to go sleep on the sofa. And Keiko goes, no, we can't have you sleep on the sofa. We're going to have sex now. Just to make this even... I don't know if that was what happened. I feel that was like the implication, but they have to sleep in the same bed. This is really awkward. So O'Brien needs to get these changes done around the station in like 36 hours. Rom volunteers. O'Brien takes Rom into his confidence, telling him, hey, if Cisco or Odo asks you anything, you don't know what you're doing. And Rom goes, I could do that. I won't even tell them my own name. So they start doing reconfiguring on the station. And anytime it looks like O'Brien is going to actually snap and tell someone, Keiko turns up to jump off the promenade or to threaten their daughter. It's all really kind of uncomfortable. Cisco and Dax have picked up that there is some sabotage going on around the station. And they ask O'Brien. And O'Brien immediately dobs Robin. And Rom gets put into jail. Odo interrogates Rom. Rom's giving him nothing. O'Brien goes to talk to Rom, intentionally blanking out the security feeds so no one can pick up what they're saying. O'Brien asks Rom if he's dobbed. And like Rom's like, I'm no grass, but I have a question.
Oh God! Oh no! Why did I set this arbitrary punishment? Oh God!
No, this is fine. Usually it's me who this stuff happens to.
Oh dear. It's all right. Just something getting clogged down there. It'll take a lot more than that to kill me.
Shame.
Well, now we carry on.
Rom assures O'Brien that he's no grass, and he knows that this is all just a test. But Rom has a question. Why are we reconfiguring the station to turn it to become a giant chronoton emitter to shoot into the wormhole to kill the wormhole aliens. O'Brien's like, oh shit, I've been so distracted by everything, I've actually not considered that. Because the wormhole aliens actually exist outside of time, so a chronotron burst, which would not affect the human anyway, would actually kill a being that lives outside of time. It turns out that Lita has been telling Rom all about Bajoran religion, and Rom is a very good listener. It turns out that the Pah'Wraiths are actually false prophets that were exiled from the wormhole, the Bajoran Celestial Temple, and were imprisoned in the fire caves of Bajor. So, O'Brien knows what the possessed Keiko wants him to do, and he's like, fuck it. I don't care about the Bajoran religion. I don't care about the wormhole aliens. All I care about is my wife. And Odo turns up. Odo realized that O'Brien turned off the security feed, so he couldn't spy on him. And O'Brien responds by promptly knocking Odo out. Now, this is at the point of the show when Odo had briefly been turned into a solid by the other changelings. So Odo has just discovered that he has a glass jaw. Not a good thing for a security officer. O'Brien and Keiko nick a runabout and head up to shoot the chronotron burst into the wormhole. But it was all a trick. O'Brien has actually programmed the chronotron burst to hit the runabout and not the wormhole, thus killing the Pah'Wraith inside Keiko before it has a chance to kill Keiko, and thus saving Keiko and the wormhole. Yay! O'Brien probably has to go for an HR meeting about like what you do when your wife gets taken over by an alien. I'm sure there's a ton of videos Starfleet has in this situation. It all ends. Keiko was awake and conscious for the whole thing, so she saw how much O'Brien was fighting to save her. So the fact that he killed her plants is probably okay. He's definitely getting some tonight, is what I'm saying. Meanwhile, Rom comes in and he's tired. Quark is excited, thinking that he got fired, and no, Rom got promoted to the day shift, and he was out all night partying with his new friends. No, Rom made friends, but now he doesn't want to eat the eggs over easy, which O'Brien ate. He now wants to eat pancakes with butter because that's what they eat on the day shift.
It's about 3 minutes and 24 over. And Miles, have you been in a workplace that has some kind of like group breakfast or dinner or anything that they all have to have?
Actually, kind of.
Oh,
At the Hilton, they would have a full buffet breakfast, which closed at 10:30, and then all the food had to be taken out of the restaurant and thrown in the bin.
oh,
Unless you were a manager or were good with the managers, because they would come in beforehand and just plate up some nice fried food and then go into their office, shut the door, and then eat their food.
oh.
And if you were, say, like a waiter or a porter who got caught doing the same thing, you got in trouble.
Of course.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that sounds about what I'd expect. For me, we didn't have like a food thing that was habitually done by the group, but when I was working at a comic shop, my now late manager, Steve, whatever trend he was on, you would have to follow. So when he was like, coffee, caffeine, too much. Okay, we're having decaf now. No,
Oh, God.
decaf. It's got things in it as well. We're moving over to tea. No, tea. Oh my God, tannin, all of this. Now we're trying fruity teas. Now we're trying these health drinks. Now, oh, we've got some promotional big pile of iced coffee. Let's just have some iced coffee. And it would kind of cycle round, and you'd just get caught up in Whirlwind Steve with that sort of thing.
As much as I remember Steve, as much as I love Steve, as much as I miss Steve, R.I.P. Steve, I didn't know him as well as you did. He was always a cool dude whenever I came in. if I worked with Steve, I would want to, and pardon my French, I would want to kill Steve.
Yes, yeah, he was a definite mentor for young Charlie, but yeah, I can see entirely how he could be taken like that. I'm sure he and Hugh, as the co-managers, it felt like they would often come to blows, which fun times. Yeah, so this is the first episode with Pah'Wraiths, which are going to be a thing. Um, DS9 has a bunch of episodes with them and a few with Possession, but I thought this would be a good one to go. Now we can talk about Pah'Wraiths, in the future, and people obviously will have heard this episode and will go, "Oh, that's what those are." I say that I know very little about what a Pah'Wraith actually is, so
As
I've
far
seen people possessed by them in later episodes.
as far as I can tell, they're evil prophets.
Yeah,
They're evil wormhole aliens. I don't know. I I really don't want to kind of always kind of harken back to what Babylon 5 was doing at the same time. The trouble is, in the same way as DC and Marvel kind of mirror their events and what's popular right now, like if one's doing zombies, the other one's going to do zombies of a kind. It sometimes feel that DS9 and Babylon 5 are sometimes cribbing off each other's homework. Like, one gets a spaceship to leave the space station. The other one has to get a spaceship in the third season. Like, I don't know which one comes first. Like the Babylon 5 introduces the White Star
oh
spaceship.
yeah,
And so obviously Defiant Star Trek DS9 has to have the Defiant. You have a big war, so one has a big war, the other one has a big war. One series has a race of ancient godlike aliens who are actually in conflict with another race of ancient godlike aliens, with the Vorlons and the Shadows, which is kind of like one of the main plot arcs of the show. So it's like, hey, we have our godlike aliens, so clearly we have to have bad godlike aliens.
yeah,
But whereas like the dichotomy of conflict between like the Vorlons and the Shadows is kind of a order versus chaos thing, but it's been kind of going on for so long. Even they don't really know why they keep fighting every 1,000 years or so. The Pah'Wraiths just feel like, yeah, we just want to fucking shank the prophets because they're dicks.
yeah, yeah. I guess the thing with this is that DS9's got so many bits going on, so many working pieces, but it can't be all about the Pah'Wraiths and the prophets. Like even now, 5 seasons in, there have been a lot of stories that aren't specifically prophet based. So yeah,
I mean, those are the Ferengi episodes, the prophet
hey,
based ones. Hey,
hey, yeah. That said, it was really good fun seeing Kiko get to do stuff and um, being awful, like being just very politely, happily, kind of like, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna kill this child.
this got awkward real
Oh,
like this got
oh,
really like I don't like my parents didn't always have the best relationship when I was growing up. So like the birthday party, when it's like, oh yeah, they're clearly fighting, but they're pretending really hard to be nice. It's just like, God, no, no,
oh.
no, no.
I've been to some of those kind of parties
Oh
at
yeah, God,
friends,
they're,
and
they're the worst.
my word, yeah,
That
yeah.
said, okay, even though it was 70s sitcom shtick, I love the scene at the beginning with Bashir and O'Brien. Like, they've killed Keiko's plants, those likely lads in space.
Oh, those
Oh man,
scabs.
like they
Oh, them and their mischief, having sleepovers and running around, and they've not put their laundry on. Oh
like,
no.
oh god, like that was fun. That like
Yeah.
it's like it's I love that we're at the point we get to what when we get to watch the points of the show when it's, oh man, it's O'Brien and Bashir, just they're up to some shit.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we see them sometimes in the background and stuff, but it was being scamps. But it was nice having that as the cold open. and then springboarding into all of this. I loved how it just started. You were saying about the cold open for observer effect with this, where there's no playing around. Like
No.
when Kiko's there, the moment she's alone with Mars is like, yeah, fucking possess your wife and I'm gonna murder her if you don't do what I say. It's like, oh shit! Oh no! Oh dear, this is bad. Yeah, and poor old Miles. Like he as ever, poor old
Poor old
Miles.
Miles. I agree. God, like, man, Cole Meany, he's just good at just playing like this charming everyman.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Uh,
I loved his interactions with Rom, kind of getting him to help but also throwing him to the wolves when he needed to. So, oh, poor Rom. As you said, with the trying to socialize thing, it's oh god, I've definitely been there. I've tried to be like, oh yeah, I'll be nice and sociable now. It's like, no, it's too much. I must leave. I must never speak to anyone here ever again. Oh no.
this episode was all A plot, but
Mm,
with like the tiny B plot of and Rom gets promoted at work and makes some mates.
yeah.
And goes out on the Raz. Where did they go to celebrate? Quark's is the only bar in town. Did they
Shit.
just have like a pint or 10 at O'Brien's?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Round at someone's quarters, just getting completely sloshed. I don't know. Maybe you could just shuttle down to Bajor as long as it can go automatically back up.
Yeah, because like, they couldn't have gone to a hollow suite because again, Quark
It's
owns
Quarks.
all. Yeah, it's like maybe I don't. Maybe it's like a really like boisterous tapas restaurant like down the promenade that we never see.
God, maybe. I mean, we've seen the Klingon restaurant, so maybe there.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, we had some food, had a lot of drink, a lot of blood wine there.
but just like oh man, just Rom just kind of crawling into Quarks in the morning, and going, yeah, I was out. I drank a lot. I think I may have pulled. I don't know.
Max Grodenchik's always a joy as Rom, so it's nice seeing him actually progressing as more than just the idiot underling of
The,
Quark.
the comedy sidekick to Quark.
Yeah, and he does that well, but
Yeah, like I like seeing where Rom and Nog get to go in the show because I think that's one of the great things of Deep Space Nine is that you do have like the side supporting characters who also have lives and arcs outside of just like your core guys.
yeah, I mean, this is why I think when people moan about how some shows like Enterprise or Discovery focus just on a person or just on a couple of people, you get less of that sense of it being organic. That
Hmm.
because this is a Miles O'Brien episode doesn't mean that other shit isn't going on. With all of these, there is, as you say, with enough of a supporting cast, you go, yeah, they've got lives, they've been off doing stuff. Cassidy Yates will come and go. There's Morn, there's all of these people that all do stuff. And they obviously exist even when they're not about. Like with Lita, like reading Bajoran religious stuff to Rom, which again is a nice touch of like, oh yeah, he gets it because he has this access to this information.
It's nice to see like these characters have like these very multifaceted lives and they get to like like the Rom in Necessary Evil where Odo just completely dismisses him as an idiot. And he was like, yeah, but he's only an idiot because he's in a situation where he has to be an idiot because he's Quark's brother. But then you see on several occasions, like the episode with Moogie, that Rom is a lot more savvy than both Quark and their mother give him credit for.
So we have a list that this needs to go on. And this is a good DS9. Like there
Yeah,
are a lot of good
we,
DS9s in
we
this.
haven't really had any bad. Let's see. The lowest ranking DS9 we have is Dax at number 92, and even then, that wasn't a bad episode. Like that was just episode 8, like episode 8 of season 1, and that's very much a case of we're still working out how to like the characters and the actors' performances. So it just still feels like that problem with early TNG when everyone is just talking exclusively in their character bios.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of hadn't
Oh
landed
wait,
yet.
no, sorry, I
Oh,
missed one. At 101, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
Alamarain!
Alamarain! Move along home.
Of course, an episode that I feel gets a lot of love from us, but is not a good
It's
episode.
not a good episode, but look, here is the thing. I think the difference between American fans of stuff and British fans of stuff, and I might just be completely colored by my love of Doctor Who and Blake Seven, where you're just like, yeah, this is good, but this is also really shit at times.
I feel, in a way, that's one of the true ways of showing fandom. If you go, no, this is garbage. Like, I love it.
I love it. It's
It's
like it's like Blake Seven is like, yeah, it's a very dark, gritty show about like terrorism in a fascist dystopia. At the same time, it goes camp by episode 4, and Brian Blessed is like gets teleported into space and explodes, and it just gets crap in place. But at the same time, I love it. Whereas, like, I don't know, with Star Trek, American Trek is like, oh, this isn't keeping in the core values of Roddenberry's vision. So Move Along Home is a crime. It's like, nah, Move Along Home is like one episode out of 24 episodes of TV produced in a time of TV where it's just like, okay, we need scripts. This train has to keep. It's like we harken back to like the time of 24 episode seasons, forgetting that particular era of TV was basically like the wrong trousers, where Gromit is at the front of a train track going out of control, and he's just rapidly putting down track to keep from crashing.
Yeah, I mean that's where discourse about lost its way a bit when people hadn't quite figured out that there's, they're making it up as it goes along. Yeah, because
Yeah,
there are
yeah,
about 3-4 checkpoints in every season where cancellation could just end it. So yeah,
yeah. It's like, yeah, they clearly don't know where they're going. It's like, yeah, you've never met a writer, have you? Like, I'll be honest, it's like they're making this up as they go along. It's like, yeah, I kind of am. Like, okay, I have a vague outline of a beginning and a middle and an end, but like, I don't know what's going to happen yet. I'm still working on it.
yeah. Welcome to stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh dear. But yes, anyway, I'm looking on the list at slot 49 with TNG's The Wounded, which is another fun O'Brien episode.
Actually, I can't disagree. Like, it helps that O'Brien is like the most like charming everyman in space.
Yeah.
The fact that he's from like the home, he's from the old country, definitely helps. Like, he doesn't have that blue collar edge. He just has that, like, you've met this, you've had a pint with this guy.
With this, that's, yeah, O'Briening his old captain there. Some fun with Cardassians and some old war horrors and all that. I feel this is better than that. Like, the fact that I often, whenever we look at The Wounded, I have to remind myself which one The Wounded was.
That's the one where he sings the Little Drummer Boy.
Yeah.
Then above that, we've got at 48, Discovery's 2-part opener, The Vulcan Hello and the Battle at the Binary Stars. This is much better.
Yeah. There's Miri. Oh.
One thing we didn't talk about is how when O'Brien gets back to the station at the end, Odo is very much like nursing that jaw. He's just like, yeah, you are getting some later, mate.
Oh yeah, yeah. There are going to be some bad things going on with
Like all I'm saying, like is like Miles. If Odo asks if he can play a game of darts, politely refuse.
mhm. Yeah, expect some fun inspections happening at some point soon. Hmm.
Like, is this better or worse than Miri? I think these are both creepy in their own way, but
Yeah,
I think with Miri, the creepiness is just something that's just occurred over time as some like attitudes have changed. Whereas this is very much creepy from the get go and intentionally so. And it's also creepy and uncomfortable in ways which are all too realistic.
yeah. So yeah, I think better for Miri in that respect. We've got Meld at 41 with the wonderful Brad Dourif there, being a brilliant antagonist as well. Like, is he better or worse as an antagonist in a Trek than Keiko O'Brien is?
It's Brad Dourif, and as much as I really don't never want to get on the Keiko O'Brien hate bandwagon because I remember that being a thing back in the 90s, I
Of
of
course,
course I'm
of
going to go
course.
with Brad Dourif, and also to go back to talk about Halloween. Brad Dourif had a supporting role in the first Rob Zombie remake,
Yeah, I
where
didn't realize
where
that.
he plays the town sheriff, and I mentioned this online, and I got a message from Celeste asking how moist is Brad Dourif. I'm like, I see what you're doing, and I appreciate it, but no, it's an upsettingly dry Brad Dourif. But at
Oh,
the same time, it's Brad Dourif sharing scenes with Malcolm McDowell, like two
wow.
quintessentially amazing character actors get into like being a film together. I'm like, damn. As much as I hate this film, I have Brad Dourif and Malcolm McDowell on screen, like acting out a scene. I can't be mad at this moment in time.
Okay, so under Meld, we've got The Big Goodbye, some fun noir, and one of the earlier holodeck mishaps.
I think this is better.
Yeah,
Like the big
yeah,
goodbye is fun, but it just has the awkwardness of like how advanced like it feels again. It's one of those things which it feels weird in context because like after this, the holodeck is the most predictable thing in Star Trek. Whereas here they're just treating it like it's the magic new toy.
yeah, yeah. Despite it apparently having existed before, but yeah, that's all right. That puts this at 42 on our list.
Ah, the meaning of life.
Yeah, the meaning of life is yeah, try and look after your possessed wife.
Yeah, and also 42 is the number of Mulder's apartment in the X-Files.
Of course.
Look, my love of the X-Files in the 90s wasn't just perving over Gillian Anderson.
Okay.
Do you blame me?
No, no, not at all.
And speaking of perving over people, Charlie, what's our last episode for today?
Oh God! Our next episode is the one that inevitably our episode cover will be all about. So you all knew this was coming, especially with possession, and it won't be the only thing that's coming. This is Star Trek: The Next Generation, Season 7, Episode 4, titled Sub Rosa. This aired on the 31st of January 1994, with a teleplay by Brannon Braga, a story by Jerry Taylor based on material by Gianna F. Gallo, and directed by Big Willie Riker. It's Jonathan Frakes. The UK number one hit was D Ream's
Oh.
Things Can Only Get Better, which unfortunate, really. Unfortunate,
Yeah,
ultimately.
isn't this song like basically wasn't this a song that was basically the neoliberal anthem for when Tony Blair and New Labour got in?
Yeah, this was the New Labour anthem.
So yeah, this song making me angry now is justified.
Yeah, yeah. Although the music video did have a background of mostly blue screen kind of stuff, but also the Garden of Earthly Delights by Bosch, which always like a bit of Bosch.
And also, we have to mention that for the group D-Ream, that their live keyboard player was Brian Cox, who then went on to do a very big career change into the sciences.
Yeah, doing Infinite Monkey Cage and wandering around going, "Oh, isn't this marvelous?" about science.
And also the scientific advisor for one of my favorite science fiction films, Sunshine, which is
Yes.
definitely a film you should all watch.
Yeah, a very good, very underrated film.
Quick tangent before we get to the sex scandal. Since this
Hmm.
is our Halloween episode, Charlie, if you
Yes.
could recommend a horror film to someone, what would it be?
Oh, that's so difficult. It depends on the person, because yeah, Sunshine's very good. Like I mentioned Wreck earlier. That's one I've not seen in many years now, but is great. Like Battle Royale's good fun. See, my want of saying Scream, because it's one of the early ones I saw, is as bad a recommendation as recommending someone Watchmen as a first comic, given how much of a statement on horror it is.
Man, I tried to show Scream to Rihanna last year because
Mm.
she was not a horror fan until like the last few years, and oh my god, I think the only other horror film I showed her which she hated more was the Blair Witch Project. But at
Oh.
least she finished the Blair Witch Project. Whereas midway through Scream, she's like, "Nope, I hate this film. I hate these
Oh no.
characters. They're all so obnoxious and annoying." It might just be one of those cases where she might come back to it in a year and go, "Okay, I was just in a bad mood." And like
Yeah.
I've had films where I've had that, and like the thing is, with as much as I love Scream, I get it.
Yeah.
It is just that very kind of, you watch Scream and you're gonna see where Community is, like what his Community is going to do in about 20 years time.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, and then the US had Brian Adams, Rod Stewart, and Sting being their own not great Three Musketeers with All for Love. Now, Emma watched this music video with me and was like, well, obviously Rod Stewart's Porthos. She will not be accepting any further questions. Sting thinks he's Aramis, but is definitely Athos. So by default, Brian Adams is going to be Aramis. So yeah, that. It felt like it was desperately trying to do a Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves energy thing, and it really couldn't manage it.
Do you think the power ballad will ever come back as a form of music
I
in
mean,
our
I've,
lifetime?
I've criticised All for Love. I kind of hope it does,
Yeah,
just for something a bit different and a
it,
bit
it,
fun.
it's like I really want like concept albums to come back. Like I kind of some like I kind of sometimes like, man, no one's really doing like a Court of the Crimson King anymore. No one's doing a 2112.
Yeah,
No one is doing a Jeff Wayne's musical version of War of the Worlds. And for
but
that, we're all sadder as a species.
do you know what I'm doing though?
Is it a ghost?
No, no, more's for pity. But someone will be when I recap this episode.
Okay, I've got my timer set up, and you may exercise your lust.
Wow. So, yeah, we're at Crusher's grandmother's funeral on planet Larp, Scotland. Governor Maturin wants Picard to get an engineer in to check out some of their techs. It's a bit old and shaky, and in return, he can have a tour of the place. And Picard's kind of good with that because it'll allow Crusher to deal with all that grim death-based admin. We hear a bit about Crusher's family. Apparently, they all had red hair and almost all of them had green eyes, apart from Bev. Make a note of that for later. She shows off an old light to Troi, apparently a guiding light for the family. She'll take it up with her to the ship, and before she can leave, a man called Ned Quint rushes in, blows the lamp out. Crusher yells at him for doing a B&E. Apparently, he was friends with Grandma Howard, but he believes that candle is cursed. Obviously, this is nonsense, but never mind. So, Data and Forge check out the atmosphere generators. Apparently, the weather's been all stormy and weird, which, frankly, I've been to Scotland. That sounds about right. But no, Crusher has been checking Grandma Howard's journals and tells Picard about her nan's much younger lover called Ronin. Weird name. Like, not Ronan, Ronin. Like Masterless Samurai and all that. She never brought him up, but her journals are full of all kinds of saucy references to him. And of course, she wants to read more. At night, back in her quarters, the lamp's candle flickers in Bev's room, and her sheet is pulled down, as is some of her nightie. She hears someone say, Beverly, quietly to her, and we tastefully cut. Later, Bev talks to Troi about her vivid ghost sex dream, about how the Phantom Hands knew all the ways she likes to be touched. Troi is jealous of this and of Bev reading Grandma Howard's sex memoirs. She says, basically keep reading them. This sounds like a sex dream and keep going. At the cemetery, Bev bumps into Ned and apologizes to him, going, oh yeah, I didn't realize quite how close he and Grandma Howard were. He tries to warn her about the house and about the candle. Apparently it'll bring a ghost. The storms are building up now with green, spooky lightning. Ooh! The bridge crew can see a green swirling cloud over the planet, and the Forge's like, yep, pump more power into the atmosphere controls. Let's see if that helps. Crusher returns to her nan's home from the storm and sees flowers everywhere. The door closes, a mirror shakes, and oh my god, there's a man in the reflection! And then he's gone. And the phantom voice is there again. Bev threatens to call the Enterprise, and after some shaking, the ghost reveals himself as Ronin, a spirit born in Glasgow in 1647. He fancied one of the Howard women back then, and all of their daughters since. When the family moved to space, he followed. Crusher yells and flings things, which is fair, frankly. Later on, Troi calls on Bev and says, is anything wrong? She says, no, she's met someone. Ronin, her grandmother's lover. He's like no one she's ever met before, I guess because she's not met ghosts yet. Don't worry, she's not in love, just intrigued. Sure. The Enterprise's bridge during all this it's got a bit of a pea super going on. The power beam seems to be causing feedback, making mist cover the bridge, and they can't disconnect it. Ned tries shutting it down, but he gets shocked and killed. Crusher knows what this is, beams back down to the planet, and yells for Ronin. The death was an accident, and he needs her help to light the candle. It's on the ship, and he can travel through the transfer beam, and then they'll be together forever. Bev runs to her quarters, shuts the door behind her, lights the candle, shaking like an addict. Ronin turns into energy and enters her. Oh yeah. Bev now decides she's going to leave the ship. She's going to live on the planet as a healer, just like her grandmother was. Picard is not a fan of this. Troi and Picard talk and ponder if the ghost is exerting any influence over Bev. Picard definitely wants to meet Ronin. Yeah, it's going to be some time for a bit of grave robbing. Bev's at home with Ronin and can't imagine life without him. He goes all green and enters her again. Apparently they're nearly merged now. Yeah, so Picard pops in and she says, oh, jealousy doesn't suit you, Jean-Paul. And he's, oh.
Okay, quick question.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked about your sex dreams to your boss?
I'm going to carry on with this recap.
And go!
Yeah, so anyway, Beverly's eyes, they've turned green. That's weird. Ronin shows up looking like a kind of 1990s network TV show gothic horror villain. I've not seen Dark Shadows. I assume very Dark Shadows coded. Data calls and tells Picard that the energy is coming from inside the Gran. They need to dig her up and see what's going on. Ronin is very upset by this, and Picard tries to grill him about who he really is. Where did he really come from? What ship did he arrive from here if he's allegedly a person? He's obviously not. He's hit with green energy, and Bev won't let him die. LaForge and Data beam the coffin out, which is so much cleaner than your normal kind of grave robbing. Burke and Hare would be incredibly jealous. The Nan wakes up and shocks them, but it's not her, it's Ronin doing this. He wants forgiveness, he's been defending himself any way possible and is here to protect Beverly. She realizes, oh no, you're not a ghost, you're some kind of weird anaphasic life form. The plasma candle has stored him all this time, and he's managed to use the Howard women as his host, infusing them with weird anaphasic plasma. He asks for the candle and threatens Geordie. She puts the candle down, walks away, and phases it. She tells the Enterprise to shut the plasma conduits down, so Ronin has nowhere else to go. She shoots him, and then, understandably, given all of this, has a bit of a cry. Beverly then explains her ancestors must have had some kind of compatible biochemistry, which is why he seduced his way through her family line. He was a bit shit, but I guess at least he made Grandma Howard happy. Oh well.
2 minutes and 2 seconds.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure no. I'm pretty sure, but there have been drunken nights out with a number of different managers, so probably not. How about you?
No, God, no.
Okay, I was wondering, because it sounded a little loaded there.
No. It's definitely just that, Beverly is just telling Jean-Luc about, like, all about her grandmother's randy sex journal. And Jean-Luc's like, should I ask if I should see? I don't know. I want to read.
Yeah, I mean...
Let me read it, Beverly!
With JL, it does feel like he's got their prior relationship, which allows a bit more of that kind of questioning. What I loved, though, was Troi, who was immediately like, yeah, get it, enjoy it. Fucking A, yeah. Your grandma's journal is so horny it's giving you sex dreams, but are really vivid. Keep going, keep reading. This, as your counselor, I insist, is what you must do. Yeah, good.
Okay, there are some times when Miranda Sirtis' English accent really comes through here in ways that it normally doesn't in TNG. Like the moment when she comes in, she just calls him Bev. It's just like, nah, you sound like you're from back here.
Yeah. I hadn't noticed when I was a kid watching this when her accent would slip through, but the more I've seen and heard of her since being Troi, the more it's like, oh yeah, this is an accent you're doing. Okay. Yeah. Wow. This was unsurprisingly, apparently, originally based on a fan submission.
What a surprise.
I know, you couldn't tell, could you? Basically about aliens going through history possessing people. And while it was apparently seen as a bit too much for a romance novel in space, it's like, well, you've got her material, you've got Jerry Taylor breaking the story for it. And like it works.
Yeah.
It's weird. But it's kind of fun. At this point, we're in season 7, so everyone's very comfortably them with it all. So fuck it, it's like in Archer where they go far enough to go, okay, we're going to change genre entirely, but these characters.
Like, I had a really fun time. I heard the episode was compared to Henry James's The Turn of the Screw.
Yeah.
And I've not actually read the novel. I have seen The Haunting of Bly Manor, which is very inspired by it. And I've seen the 60s British horror film The Innocents with Deborah Kerr, which is one of those classy British 60s horror films. So, no cleavage, no gore. It's really good. I think in terms of, it's up there with like the old black and white Haunting, also directed by Robert Wise, which does that fantastic thing of something's not there, but then something is there in the distance, and it is creepy.
Nice. Yeah, The Innocents is cited as one of the influences on a role-playing game called The Between that I'm a massive fan of, and might still be on crowdfunding when this episode airs. So go to Back Kit if you want something that's kind of spooky and kind of sexual, actually, as well, similar to this episode. Which, yeah, I did have a thought about this because Ronin, stupid name for a 1600s Scotsman. I'm amazed that the anaphasic life form got away with that. I assume people just thought he misspoke. But anyway, because he seduces his way all through the Crusher line, would he have to seduce, like, if he wasn't destroyed, would he have to seduce Wesley or Jack Crusher?
No, it depends. Like maybe there's other kind of members of the Crusher family line. Like I don't think it's ever been sort of detailed if Beverly's like an only child. Or
True.
maybe it'd be one of those kind of things, like in fantasy stories where due to like some form of influence they give birth to a particular gender of child, so like the circle can continue. And also we don't know if one thing we don't know how Ronin fully swings, or if
Yeah.
Ronin can change form based on
Preference. Well, maybe. Does that mean that all the Howard women and now Crusher all wanted the kind of Wuthering Heights looking guy?
probably.
God. There's a bad influence for your romance. A tale which ultimately amounts to love destroys not one but two generations.
I'm generally not a sort of paranormal romance reader, and neither is my wife. I remember when we were talking about doing this episode, it was like, Charlie, is Emma a fan of paranormal romance?
Um, kind of, kind of. She will read it, she will write it, but also has a very knowing kind of awareness of the medium and of the genre. I told her that you'd suggested, maybe she'd pitch in with some information. She was like, "Yeah, I've seen it before. I didn't care for it." So okay,
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 fair enough, fair enough.
um, again, I enjoyed this. It was very campy, very daft. Like Frakes obviously had fun with it.
I definitely know. Hang on, this came out 94. 11-year-old me would have hated it because 11-year-old me would not have got it whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think 14, well, no, 13-year-old me probably would have been similarly, um, yeah, disposed with this, but 13-year-old me was wrong. Yeah, a few people mentioned about some issues of trying to make things not seem daft or lewd with it, like the effects coordinator and also Jerry Taylor herself, who kind of championed this a bit of pushing it through, going, look, there are women in the audience. Yeah, it's a romance. Fuck it. Like, yeah, women watch Star Trek as well, which it's terrible that that is an argument that keeps going even to the year of Luigi 2024 sometimes. But yeah,
It's like for a show which is definitely very male gazy, and Star Trek, no matter how much it tries to tell you it isn't, definitely always goes in for that for the male. It has a very male gaze on the universe.
so yeah, seeing something that goes a bit different with it, good fun. Like,
Yeah,
why not? And yeah, like I did see a lot of people have dissed it over time. It has been on a number of worst Star Trek lists. It's had, Brannon Braga had said that apparently it had a very split reception between genders. Apparently, some fans short circuit when there are sexual themes. It's like, oh my god. I know this was 94, but man.
I mean, you say that, but we still have people complaining. I mean, I remember the uproar in the '96 Doctor Who TV movie when Paul McGann kisses Dana Ashbrook's Grace
Mhm.
several times throughout the film, and then Doctor Who continuing to go on kissing people in the modern incarnation of the show, and people still complaining about it to a degree. But then again, it's Doctor Who. The fans will complain about anything.
Oh, definitely. The fandom is often tiring. Overall, like The atmosphere weather stuff I didn't care about as much at first, but then of course it got brought into like, oh yeah, the energy is part of Ronin, and you know, yeah,
I like the idea of cosplay Scotland.
yeah, yeah. So often when we've seen cosplay like colonies around the place, it's been, oh yeah, this just looks like 20th century America, or this looks like the old West, or
Yeah,
stuff like that. So yeah,
and
even though it feels very much like theme park Scotland.
yeah, it feels very much like how America. It's the Chris Claremont England. It's how
Yeah.
Chris Claremont thinks England is in X Men and Excalibur. I love the governor of the alien who went to Scotland and is just like, yeah, fuck it, I'm Scottish, me, and just like immediately got himself a tam o' shanter, like a nice tweed jacket, and just like, well, fuck it, I'm Scottish.
Yeah, we're all Scottish here. It's great, you know,
I wish we could see more of that in Star Trek, like of
100%.
different parts of Earth culture, like spreading out to different parts of the planet. But it's Star Trek, so it's all very much it's usually very American.
Yeah, yeah. They mentioned taking bits of castles and buildings brick by brick from Scotland, which they can't have done too much. Like, there's not enough to cover a planet. You know, maybe a few buildings, but there's got to be at least a couple more LARP Scotland
Like
planets out there.
I am assuming that with the church, and there is a church, which
Hmm.
again begs the question, which is, does Judeo-Christian worship and service still exist in the future of Star Trek? Because if they have a church and a graveyard, and they buried a woman, they bury the grandmother, and they're having a service, and
Hmm.
it given that how the human civilization of this incarnation of Star Trek always seems to be fully secular, unless you're Chakotay, in which case you are grab bag Native American.
Yeah.
We very rarely see any of the Abrahamic religions in Star Trek.
It's a curious one with that. I wonder how much of it is playing that role
Mm.
almost. Has it got to that point where, much like saying, yeah, these people, alien, human, whatever, they've decided they're Scottish now, they're going to adopt these different things? Is it going to be, oh, yeah, of course, LARP Scotland would have churches and graves and all
Or
that?
maybe just like maybe in even in this secular, in this very much kind of, we don't believe in this,
Hmm.
like we're very much about science and scientific advancement. There are still people who do who do believe in a god and choose to kind of continue to kind of keep the faith alive when it's almost out of kind of historical cultural context.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting when you see those kind of things. I know that if I run a Star Trek RPG, I definitely want some weird ass worlds that have been kind of built up into different things like this. So yeah, um, but yeah, I feel I did wonder when I was looking at this: is this going to be another one that ends up a bit like Tuvix with us?
How do you mean?
As in, it's on a lot of worst of lists, but actually fares fairly well.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it's weird to say that I like this more than I did Plato's Stepchildren, even though there is still the strange consent issue.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's very much drawing from paranormal romance, and you're drawing from those tropes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, he is early to mid 90s gothic broody hot guy that's like, you know, he knows his way around the Crusher. And yeah, like it felt like more of a seduction than a kind of, yeah, she is actively possessed.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, as it turns out, is Candle's kind of infusing her with stuff.
And at the end of the day, it is Crusher who saves the day and kills Ronan. Unlike again in Plato's Stepchildren, where Uhura and Chapel are props and are
Yeah,
just left to be saved by the Met. Dragged in, dragged out.
yeah, yeah. That wasn't great. So this was a good fun time. I don't think it's going to be a kind of iconic. Yeah, this is the best thing ever, but
Yeah.
it's still pretty cool, pretty fun. So our two other contentious, often considered the worsts on our list are Threshold and Tuvix, both of which occupy spots 38 and 39 on our list.
You also forgot Justice on 110, where Wesley ruins a visit to Planet Fuck. And,
Yes.
given that this also involves a Crusher, I feel
Yeah,
like we have to mention that one.
of
If only
course.
in a and also ran.
Yeah, I mean, that one did not fare as well.
No.
And yeah, this definitely feels like it's going to be better than that.
Okay. Oh wow. Tuvix and Threshold are right
Yeah,
next to each other. Threshold is 38, Tuvix is 39.
for a list of 132 things. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay.
37 and 38. That's good. Good for
Okay.
them.
I feel this is a much better paced story than Tuvix. Because as
Yeah.
we said, Tuvix kind of needs a final, another episode to kind of everyone go, okay, Tuvix happened. How do we feel about that?
Well, and show us people actually getting around to liking this loathsome cunt, because he was really not pleasant. He was irritating, and suddenly a fortnight passes in a cut, and we all like Tuvix now. Why? Because we'll all feel bad when it goes on. We won't actually do anything about it. We will still let him die
We'll just
and quietly look on.
we'll just demonify Janeway for doing it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And then we have Threshold, which
Oh, there's some good horror.
yeah, like Threshold is bloody stupid, but it's bloody stupid in a good way.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It feels like it's what about 15% really bad, and the rest of it is some good space horror. So yeah, I felt that was a good time as well.
I think this is better than both.
Oh,
Because
okay.
you do have the scenes where Deanna is trying to get a second-hand horn off Beverly. You
Yeah,
have Beverly talking about her grandma's sex journal to Picard, and Picard's okay, Patrick Stewart, but give me the fucking book, I want to read it.
mhm. Yeah, but Picard, on the other hand, is like, I'm going to be very awkward about this.
I'm for a Frenchman, I'm gonna be very British about this.
Exactly.
Okay, the scene where Granny's eyes open and she promptly zaps Data in the forge, that looked really dumb, but at the same time, it's just it's fun. This is fun.
Yeah, that was brilliantly dumb. And much like Wesley getting the point in a previous episode, that was one of the most common cards in one of the Star Trek CCG expansions during my very brief window of buying it. So I had so many cards with her face on, with the eyes open. It's like it feels burnt into my memory, much like the Wesley stabbing.
Okay, and then above that we have I Borg at number 37.
Yeah,
Man, I feel like
that is a good one.
Iborg's a really good one, but just again, I feel like it runs into the problem of runtime, because we
Hmm.
spend about 35 minutes getting everyone to the right point, and then it's like shit, we now have 8 minutes to wrap everything up.
Yeah. Okay. I think the next one up might be our ceiling here with
Deja
Deja Q.
Oh,
Like a powerless Q getting really indignant, being a real shit, just for joy of Picard, Riker, like
like
yeah,
John
even Guinan.
John Delancey steals the show. I think he's never better.
Mm,
than he honestly is here. Whoopi Goldberg getting some nice material. John Delancey and Brent Spiner, who don't really usually do much
mm.
together, but it was a nice little duo. Yeah, I think Deja Q is definitely our ceiling for Sub Rosa.
Yeah, as much as I really enjoyed this episode, Ronin is no Q.
No,
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun episode and a perfect Halloween episode. Next time, things are going to get a bit animated as Lower Decks is returning, and we're going to have a look at some cartoons. Yeah. Outside of that, you can find us on kofi.com/casual trek if you want to throw us a little bit of money. I know Star Trek's in a post-capitalism world, but sadly we do still have to exist in one. So if you like what we do, throw us a little bit of money. If you want an episode based around a suggestion of yours, throw us some money and tell us, I want to see something about, well, not sex candles, because
we've done that.
episode, yeah, sorry, but anything else. You can also find us on Blue Sky with casualtrek.bsky.social, and welcome to Brazilians, to more Twitter refugees, and so on, as Twitter sounds like it's good to have abandoned like a year ago now. Miles, where can the good folks find you?
They can find me on my Blue Sky account at bsky.app. My full name, milesreedlabata.bsky.social, or you can find me on my blog at mareedlabato.wordpress.com. I very recently did a write-up of the new Transformers movie, Transformers 1,
Ooh.
which I had a very fun time doing.
Yeah, sounds like it was a fun one.
Oh, it was a hell of a fun film. I also wrote about the Gus Van Sant shot-for-shot remake of Psycho, a film I swore to myself I would never watch. But again, this was 1996, like 1996, 1997 era Miles, and he was an idiot.
Wow. And where can the bad folks find you?
Where can the bad folks find me? Well, they can find me at Charlie. Quick, what's your home address?
I'm not falling for that again.
Okay, fine. You can find me at 154 Go Fuck Yourself Drive, Brixton, London.
Okay.
And Charlie, what about you?
Well, I'm on Blue Sky at skyshark.bsky.social, where I mostly talk about X-Men and RPGs. I have blog posts and show notes for this on faketales.com, and recently I've been writing some reviews on Who Dares Rolls, mostly of RPGs, but the occasional board game as well. Anyway, on that note, yeah, go fuck a candle, I guess,
Go do a
or a
Starfleet.
ghost in a candle. Be very careful about what you put in yourself, especially candle wise. God knows what could happen. Yeah, yeah. Go do a Starfleet. Don't touch Klingon garbage planets, and yeah, fuck a ghost from a candle.
And have a jelly baby.
Yeah. You have been listening to Casual Trek, a Nerd and High podcast, presented by Charlie Etheridge Nunn and Miles Reed Lobato. Music by Alfred Etheridge Nunn. Star Trek by Paramount. Not us. Not yet.